Hello, I'm going to show you how to make a buttonhole on the Husqvarna Viking s215. This is an old 1993 machine, but it just works perfectly. Now over here, I put on the presser foot C, which is made for buttonholes. And on my fabric here, I've already marked out the buttonhole I want to make. Let me find it. Where did I mark it? Okay, I'll make a new mark. Let's just assume this is the buttonhole I'm going to make right here. I kind of draw it in with the tacks and then the length. Now this fabric, it's important to notice the fabric because the stretch is going this way, but it's stable this way. So I'm going to sew a buttonhole this way. So I think this is a thick fabric. It's going to be fine. But I want to show you some practice ones I did where I went across the other direction. As you can see, it's kind of bowing because it's stretched. And this one I used a little tiny bit of interfacing to stabilize it. And as you can see, that one turned out pretty well. So sometimes you need to use stabilizer and always practice. Okay, so here's the one I'm going to use as a sample. Now, the way this works is that you always start at the beginning because it's going to sew backwards. So I'm going to stick my needle here in the center, lower the presser foot, and then as always, you hold your first thread tail to avoid a nest. And then if you look at the controls here, I'm going to choose number 1. You have to always make sure that this is on the 5.5, I guess, because sometimes it will get stuck on one of these and it won't work. It has to be on the 5.5. And then down here on the lower one, there's 2 different lines for the buttonhole, and I like the slightly wider one, which is on the left. So back to the machine here, I'm going to go ahead and let this go. Ran out of thread. Just a second. We'll pull that. Always lift it when you're going to pull it. Never pull it when it's in its down position. I'll get that underneath again. Now lower it and hold it, and there we go. I'm going to go get it started with my hand. And it's just going to feed through by itself until I get to my drawn bar tack, which is about here. And then make sure the needle's up. And then when I go back to my controls, I can go to the 2. Again, making sure this is loose. And it's going to bar tack it. Up. Needle position's up. If it wasn't, I'd raise it with the handrail. And then on my control, I'm going to go now to number 3. Making sure this is loose. And it will just go ahead and do the other side, following this line here. Till I get to the end. Needles up. Go back to the 4 now, 2/4. And I'll bar tack the bottom. There we go. Now, needles up. Raise the presser foot. I can cut this off and you can see this beautiful buttonhole now. I'm going to show you how to cut this open to avoid tears, because after you've done all this work on your finished garment, you don't want to cut too far. So you usually start with a seam ripper and you poke a hole in the bottom and you just go up a tiny bit. Then you flip it over and you just work in the other direction. And that way you can't overshoot because it will hit the hole. Now, the sharper your seam ripper, like that just turned out beautifully. So as you can see, there's my finished buttonhole. Here's the back side. That looks good too. And again, if you were using a thinner fabric or something that had more stretch in this direction, I would go ahead and put a little bit of interfacing on the back. But there's a beautiful buttonhole.